Hello, this is Dr. Nuke, and right now I'm going to talk a little bit about Vermont place names. Vermont has some interesting and strange place names. For example, there's a town of Hartford, Vermont, not to be confused with Hartford, Connecticut. Presumably, it was named after Hartford, Connecticut. And just below Hartford, Vermont, there's a town called Heartland, Vermont. Hartford and Heartland, right next to each other. At one time, Heartland was called Hertford. So at that time, way back, it was Hartford and Hertford, and you can see how there was confusion between the two. In addition to that, there's a Newport City and a Newport Town. The city of Newport and the town of Newport are two distinct and separate municipalities they are next to each other, but they're distinct and separate. Similarly, there's a St. Albans City and a St. Albans Town, and there is a Rutland City and there's a Rutland Town, and there is a Barre City and a Barre Town. Also, there's the city of Montpelier, the capital city of Vermont, which, by the way, is the only capital city in the United States to not have a McDonald's in it. And then there's the town of East Montpelier, which borders it. Incidentally, there is a McDonald's not far away on the Barre-Montpelier Road in the town of Berlin. In the Burlington metro area, there's the separate municipalities of Burlington, South Burlington, Colchester, Winooski, and Williston. And there are some Indian place names in Vermont. For example, there's a river called the Winooski River, and Winooski is the Abenaki Indian word for onion, if I'm not mistaken. So many Vermont towns are named after towns in Connecticut or Massachusetts or England, ultimately. And Vermont itself, at one time, was known to some people as New Connecticut. The reason it was called that was because a lot of the people that came up to Vermont, the first English-speaking settlers, many of them were from Connecticut. I suppose Vermont could have been called Upper Connecticut, considering that the upper part of the Connecticut River forms the eastern border of Vermont with its eastern neighbor, New Hampshire. And there are places in Vermont with French names. For example, there's Isle La Motte, which is a small town in the Lake Champlain Islands, on which is located a shrine, a Catholic shrine, the St. Anne Shrine. I believe on that site the first Mass was said in Vermont in the 1600s by a priest who was there with French settlers. The area along Lake Champlain was settled by the French in the 1600s, and then those settlements died out, and the English-speaking settlers later on came in from Massachusetts and Connecticut. Well, Vermont does have a very interesting history and is a wonderful place to visit, to tour and to see. One thing, if you do come to Vermont in the summertime, it's not open in the winter, the A&W root beer stand in Middlebury. It's an old-fashioned A&W root beer stand, and they come out to your car to get your order, and they bring the food to your car. Again, they're not open in the winter. I'm not even altogether sure if they survived the COVID epidemic in which so many businesses were lost. But if it is still there, I would highly recommend it. I will look into the question of whether that establishment is going to be open this coming summer or not. And I'll get back to you viewers in a future video about the status of the A&W root beer stand. It would be a shame if it were not there anymore. You could get hot dogs and burgers and fries, and of course A&W root beer in a frosted glass mug, or better yet, an A&W root beer float in a glass frosted mug. Yes, wonderful place. Vermont has many, many, many wonderful places. Well, this is Dr. Nuke signing off. Until next time.